So today is the really important WNBA CBA meeting, and it's one of those things where I think a lot of people are looking at this from one side, thinking X, Y, and Z about the players and the Players Association and the link with Unrivaled, yada yada. It genuinely seems like not even everyone said, oh, the players are 100% aligned. Lads, not even the Players Association is 100% aligned, let alone the players. They're all going to stand on a front because at the end of the day, a Caitlin Clark or a Age is not going to come out and say, stop being stupid, we need to play. Because that ruins everything the league is going for, and that will ruin whatever potential. It'll mean they can't get the best deal possible. However, this is scary. So it says here, sources said a strong debate has emerged within the 7-player member executive committee, which I think is Stewie. If I'm not mistaken, it's Stewie, Fee, Neck as the president, Kelsey Plum, Bree Turner, Elizabeth Williams, and Alicia Clark, I think. And by the way, it's very different arguing when you're about to finish your career and when you still have time left in your career. So it says here, according to multiple sources, one group says that now is the time to fundamentally alter the league's revenue sharing model, and players shouldn't compromise until they feel comfortable. So basically, burn it down. Burn it down. Because the revenue sharing model can't alter. They can get more money, by the way. That's not saying the players can't get paid. The players can get paid so much money. But in terms of as a percentage, because of the way the league is structured, giving up a percentage guarantees everyone to lose money. And there are a lot of people that have ownership in the WNBA that don't give a flying fuck about the WNBA and just have it as a monetary investment. And unfortunately, when you sold off of enough of a stake to those people, when you need the NBA to survive for 30 years, that is just unfortunate. That being said, the players should be able to maybe eventually get to the point where they're at, but the league has not proven sustainability to do that. And it says another group says that there is still some matters being negotiated. The players have already gained significant ground, are closer to a deal, and are less inclined to pursue a strike. So even amongst the PA, even amongst the players that are negotiating for the players, and people are like, oh yeah, all the players are okay, all the players vote for a strike, and I'm like, no, the players voted to say that they agree with what the PA wanted. How many players want there to be a strike in the WNBA? My guess is under 10%. That would be my guess. Is somewhere between 5% and maybe 10% of players. Because I think the vast majority of players don't want there to be a strike, because they know if there's a strike in the short term, like, could you imagine if you're a WNBA player and over your career you have made, and you're an average one, over your career you've been making $150,000 a year between overseas and WNBA. You have been playing for 5 years. You made $150,000 a year. And automatically, you are about to be handed, because if you made $150,000 a year, you're about an average player. You are about to be handed a $400,000 check for the next 3 years. You are going to triple the amount of money you've made or you're going to double the amount of money you've made in your career of the last 5 years in the next 3 years. You are about to be handed money you've never expected. If you've signed this three-year contract at under half for $1.2 million on this contract, you can immediately set up yourself. You can immediately buy a house. You can immediately do all this. Or it could be torn up, and instead of you making $150,000, you're now making $50,000. Like, that is the alternative, by the way, for the vast majority of players. And I mean this when I say this. I can guarantee you the number of players that want to strike, unless they get exactly what they want, is probably under 10. Almost certainly under 10%. And you can see it here. If not even the committee, and you know the people, you know who it is. Fee wants to burn it down. That is, I would be 99% sure of that. The Fee wants to burn it down. Stewie, evidently from what she says, just wants this league to exist. She does not want to burn it down. And anyone being like unrivaled to conflicts of interest with Fee and Stewie, it absolutely is. But the ironic thing is that publicly, the player who is most pro the league going on is one of those two, and the player who's most anti is the other one of those two. Like, I have no idea where Bree Turner, Elizabeth Williams, or Alicia Clark stand. It sounds like Neko Wumake is closer to Group 2 than Group 1 because of the statement of we need to play. Fee Collier, everything she has said points to unrivaled better, we can do it better. And by the way, like, anyone saying that she's doing that out of malice, I don't think Fee's a bad person. I think she fully believes that if the WNBA burns down, that she could build unrivaled into being better in into being bigger in the WNBA. I think she fully believes it. Is it going to be the case? No. And is the alternative for the next 5 to 10 years all those players coming up through college? Like, you can't scale. You can't scale a 200-person league that's paying anywhere close to what the WNBA are offering within 10 years. You just can't. So, again, I always use the example. The reason why I use the example of Grace VanSlooten is Grace VanSlooten is going to be drafted in the second round. She's going to make a roster, and she's probably going to be in the WNBA for 10 years. So, it's the difference between a player like a Grace VanSlooten, and I'm not talking about her specifically. She might be full on the burn it down side. It's just that level of player making in their over their 10-year career, making $500 million, or say not 500, Jesus, $5 million, or retiring, playing 1 year in Europe, making $50K, retiring and going working an office job. And at what, $100K a year? Taking, and maybe not making $5 million in the rest of her working life. Making $500 million over 10 years basketball career. That is the difference, by the way. That is the difference, because these young players coming up through college, they can't wait for Unrivaled to be sustainable. Unrivaled can't pay everybody. The Unrivaled don't have the means to do that. And a big reason, and like, they don't. They just don't. So, yeah, anyone in the burn it down crew, and people saying, oh, the players shouldn't compromise. That is burn it down. Because everybody knows the players aren't getting what they want. Everybody knows that. Because of the revenue structure of the league, they all know that. Not now, anyway. Not now. Maybe for the next CBA, if it becomes attainable, they can look into buying out the 32%, and then in 10, 15 years, they can look to buying out the NBA. And then if this league keeps growing as it is and filling out stadiums and getting even keeping the same TV numbers as they are now for 15 more years, we get the next TV deal. If they keep the same TV numbers, you are looking at situations where, yes, players are going to be making $10 million. That is what it's going to happen. Players, if they can keep up these TV numbers for 15 more years, as in when the Caitlin Clark games stagnate and all the other games rise, even very slowly, players in 10, 15 years will be making 10 million a year in the WNBA. They're going to be able to buy out the other owners. They're going to be able to buy out this. There's going to be more teams. Values will raise by enough that it's worth it to pay the players extra. Like, a salary cap will be at $40, $50 million. Like, that is, if the league grows the way they think, that is what's going to happen. However, if they burn it down, it's going to take that same amount of time. Even if everything goes perfectly for Unrivaled, it will take that 10 years to scale Unrivaled up to where the WNBA is today with half the players. Instead of 200 with 100 players. So for players to be making $500,000 average, it'll probably take 10 to 15 years in Unrivaled, while scaling the league eventually to 100 players, which means you lose the vast majority of these talented players in college are just working office jobs. Or you can go and sign this deal, get whatever you can, by the way, get the best deal you can, and if the league keeps growing, eventually keep working with the league to try see what way you can sort out the revenue structure of the league, then eventually you get the revenue split percentage you want if it's shown sustainability, which I do think the league will give if they show sustainability, and eventually you're making 10 million a year. Or you can burn it down because you want everything now. It's as simple as that. I'll see you guys.